How's it going, everyone? The PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Games with Gold titles have been revealed for the month of November, and it seems like a lot of people are down with both months' offerings, at least down on them. In the case of PlayStation Plus, the VR editions do make it so some people are really happy with the game offerings, while other people, and a lot of people, don't have VR, so they are not as happy. There are some standouts with both months, but want to compare both services' offerings and decide on which one is better. Now, I am going to give you guys two decisions, one with including the VR games and one without, so you guys can probably see where I'm going with this, but nevertheless, let's break down all of the titles. We talked about Plus games quite a bit, but just to reiterate them once again, the three main games that are the non-VR titles, you've got Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, which is definitely the biggest game of the three. Yes, it's a remaster of a game that initially came out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but it's a game that, unfortunately, from a sales standpoint, like, a lot of people did play it, but I guess the budget for creating the game was so high that, the studio that made this game went defunct afterwards, so that's really upsetting because the game I thought was very good. While I wouldn't say it had an emotionally gripping narrative, I would say the gameplay was quite good, being a faster-paced, action-oriented RPG rather than a slower open-world RPG. I think that's an element of this game that would draw a lot of people in if they gave it a chance. There's a good bit of content, and again, the game itself is a lot of fun. It is a bit mindless at times, so if you just wanna kind of emotionally check out, so to speak, maybe listen to a podcast while playing this game, I don't know, you can do that. This story has some interesting elements, but again, when you compare it to some of the other elite RPGs that have been released in the last decade or so, it's definitely not the strongest from a story standpoint, but it's still a very good game. I really enjoyed it, and as an offering with PlayStation Plus, it's quite good, and it's getting an expansion. There is a Fate edition available, which includes the expansion, but I believe you can buy it separately as well. That should be coming soon, so yeah, it's actually getting more content, and hopefully this paves the way for a sequel to the game as well, because I'd really like to see that. The other two titles are multiplayer focused. Now, you have a brand new game in First Class Trouble. This is definitely something that's going to be reminiscent to a lot of other games that have dropped in recent memory. It's a social deduction game where, yes, 6 people play together online aboard a luxury space cruiser. At the start of each game, 4 players will be randomly selected to be the residents, cooperatively trying to shut down a rogue AI at the heart of the ship. The other 2 players, on the other hand, will be personoids who will lie, deceive, and do whatever it takes to stop them. Teamwork is the key to survival, but who can you trust? Obviously, these styles of games, social deduction titles, they've been getting pretty popular. You have games that are very notable, like Among Us, of course, but First Class Trouble has been in early access for quite a while on PC, going back to April of this year. It has 1,412 Steam user reviews, 79% positive on that end, so it's not like it was incredibly well received, but it is still going to be a brand new release, and whenever you do get a brand new release on Plus or Xbox Live Games with Gold, I feel like that does have to account for something. In the case of First Class Trouble, I didn't see too much buzz surrounding it. I saw a lot of people being like, okay, another game like this, but with its online focus, it is nice to see that right out the gate it is going to have an online priority, and hopefully that means it's going to have a sustaining player base. Lastly, of the 3 main PlayStation titles, you have Knockout City. Now, Knockout City was a game that was published by EA, and it actually had a decent bit of buzz when it dropped earlier this year. A lot of people would argue that it should have been free to play right out of the gate, and that is what hurt the game. It does have a free trial available, so you always were able to play the game that way. It's also available with EA Play, and that's an unfortunate reality with these subscription services these days, where if you're, like, subscribed to PlayStation Plus and EA Play, there has been a bit of crossover between the two, and then there's also PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, and then you're also talking about PlayStation Plus and the Instant Game Collection. All of those services have had some sort of crossover, and it's kind of hard to avoid that when you're talking about, you know, so many games being available in all of those services, so, it sometimes is just what happens when there is a bit of crossover, and that mitigates the value of a lot of those subscription services. So that's a little bit of a bummer. The game itself, obviously, it's easy to see what they're trying to do here. Knockout City is a game that is seemingly on its last legs from a community standpoint, so you really need to revitalize that player base. Offering it as a Plus title will hopefully do that, but again, I don't want it to be completely normal where that's kind of the route where Plus goes. I think if a multiplayer game comes out and it's dropped on Plus right away, fine, that's great, but it shouldn't be the last, like, bastion of hope for a multiplayer game to ultimately go to Plus. I don't like that happening, but I understand that it is a route that they probably see as beneficial to go to revitalize that player base. Nevertheless, those are the 3 main games, and then, of course, this coming month, November, being the 5th anniversary of the release of PlayStation VR, another layer has been added to those offerings with PSVR titles. You've got The Persistence, and then you have Walking Dead Saints and Sinners and Until You Fall. Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, many consider it to be the best PSVR game, so that's a really good addition. Until You Fall was pretty well received, and The Persistence is another game that is offered. All those games are generally like varying to the positive reception, but pretty well received in all regards. Obviously, you do have to have a VR headset. In my world right now, I don't have my PSVR hooked up. I have a PSVR headset. While I had it hooked up, I really liked it, but with how my configuration and setup is right now, it's just really hard to find the room and the setup for it to work. I do want to hook it up eventually, and of course I will be checking out VR2 when it comes out, and hopefully it is going to be a little bit more accessible in terms of setting it up. But nevertheless, those are the offerings on PlayStation Plus. 6 games definitely makes it a bit advantageous for PlayStation Plus this coming month, but let's talk about Xbox Live Games with Gold now, because they do have some decent offerings. First of all, you have Moving Out, which typically goes for $25, and it was a game that was released last year, a ridiculous physics-based moving simulator that brings a new meaning to couch co-op. Are you ready for an exciting career in furniture? As a newly certified furniture arrangement and relocation technician, you'll take on moving jobs all across the busy town of Packmore. Now, the game does have local cooperative play, so if you do want to play with some friends, you have that going for it. The game didn't get a lot of buzz. I remember looking into it back when it came out in April of 2020. So again, not a lot of buzz then. Now it's coming to Xbox Live Games with Gold. Cool to see it, but I don't think that's going to get too many people excited. But again, cool addition there. From November 16th to December 15th, we'll also get Kingdom 2 Crowns. Now, this is a pretty notable addition. This was a game that was received incredibly strongly, overwhelmingly positive reception based on Steam's recent reviews. Kingdom is a game that a lot of people spent quite a bit of time with, and now you have Kingdom 2 Crowns here as a freebie. Players must work in the brand new solo or co-op campaign made to build their kingdom and secure it from the threat of the greed. Experience new technology, units, enemies, mounts, and secrets in the next evolution of the award-winning micro-strategy franchise. Now, the game goes on sale quite frequently, but it typically is $19.99, so value-wise, that is a pretty good offering, and you know, while it is a little bit dated, it's a little bit on the older side, it's still a game that is relatively notable, and as a Games with Gold edition, again, to avoid crossover between the subscription services, it's one of the better offerings that, you know, you're gonna find with Games with Gold these days. Okay, so obviously you do have 2 Xbox 360 titles as well. The first one is an absolute throwback, and that is Rocket Knight. Rocket Knight came out all the way back in 2009, I believe. This is also a franchise that was prevalent on the Sega Genesis, so quite a throwback here. You have an updated version with Rocket Knight released. This was published by Konami. It didn't get like a super positive reception, a 72 on Metacritic, mostly positive on Steam, 94 user reviews only, but a throwback to some people, and maybe some people are going to get that nostalgia element out of it, but you know, as a 360 title, it kind of falls to the wayside there. And lastly, as far as the 360 games go, you have LEGO Batman 2 DC Superheroes. Now, I always think a LEGO game offering is decent. It's a game that anybody can get into if you have a younger sibling, a kid, a younger cousin, whatever the case may be, a younger family member. It's always easy to get them on a LEGO game, and it's accessible to just about anyone. Anyone can really jump in and play a LEGO game. While I don't think a ton of people are going to get super excited about it, it's another game that I'm sure people are going to be nostalgic with, because I think everybody growing up at least played a couple LEGO games. But LEGO Batman 2 DC Superhero typically goes for $19.99. Available as a 360 game, obviously playable on Series X and Xbox One through backwards compatibility, and that's always nice to see when you do get those 360 games and they're playable on all platforms. You would wish that would be available on PlayStation as well, but alas, that is not the case. So, again, to reiterate the Xbox offerings, you've got Moving Out, Kingdom 2 Crowns, Rocket Knight, LEGO Batman 2 DC Superheroes. Now, where I think Xbox falters a little bit this month is that there is no marquee title that I think that gets people super excited. LEGO Batman 2 is what it is. Again, Kingdom is a smaller budget game. At the very least with PlayStation Plus, even if you take off the PSVR games, you do have Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. It's an open-world action RPG that I think people can immediately sink their teeth into and be like, okay, that's at least a game I'm going to check out. In the case with Games with Gold, I think for a lot of people, they're going to look at that lineup and be like, hey, I'm not going to check out any of those games. They just don't look like my cup of tea. Where in the case of Re-Reckoning, I do believe that's a game that has some more casual and mainstream appeal It's not the biggest game in the world, let's not get it twisted, but as far as being the closest to that category, I think Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning is that. Now, if you add in the VR games, obviously, this month is an absolute wash. You get 6 games versus 4. You get, in my opinion, better games with PlayStation Plus with Re-Reckoning. You get a new release in First Class Trouble, and those VR games, Walking Dead, Saints, and Sinners as well. If you have a PSVR headset, definitely a good reason to play that. And if you don't have a VR headset, add them to your library. At some point, VR2 is gonna come out. It's gonna be accessible to a lot more people, and it's going to be beneficial to have those games in your library if you plan on keeping your PlayStation Plus subscription. Same thing with Games with Gold. Obviously, if you have it, add all those games to your library. You never know. You got a lot of gamer score to get with those titles as well, so that's always something that I know people are a big fan of trophies, gamer score, and if nothing else, hey, the games give you that if you want to, you know, reduce it down to the most simplistic form of analysis. But that's going to do it for me. Let me know if you agree with me. I think PlayStation Plus wins out this month pretty handily. Games with Gold has had some good months, but with the evolution of Xbox Game Pass and that really being the service of choice for Microsoft to support, most people have Game Pass, and all the big heavy hitters are going to Game Pass. Games with Gold kind of gets the leftovers a lot of the time, and I'm not saying that's the wrong strategy by Microsoft. It's absolutely the right strategy. Game Pass Ultimate, you get Xbox Live Gold with that, so they're going to prioritize making Game Pass the compelling service, and that does do a little bit of damage with the Games with Go. But hell, I wish Sony would have a subscription service at the level of Game Pass. If I could save money and not drop $60 on everything, you know, that would be quite nice. Hey, $70 at this point, but I know why Sony's not doing the subscription route model at this stage of the game. They have PS Now, but a different ball game. Game Pass just blows that out of the water. But that's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.